Alright, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is if you grew up in the 1970s, you remember this. Part 2. Guys, keep this in mind. I did not grow up in the 1970s. So the chance of me remembering anything is pretty much zero. But we will see. Because part 1 went over my head, guys. Coming from the channel Recollection Road.
The 1970s had so much going on, I decided to put together another collection of things you might remember that will...
Hey guys, that pose makes absolutely no sense. Just gonna let you guys know.
...jog your memory of that decade. I used the comments from the last video to create the list. So if you grew up in the 1970s, you will remember many of these things, provided by you, the viewers. The Marlboro Man was a campaign that showed how rugged you could look smoking filtered cigarettes. During the 1970s, actual ranchers were used to portray the iconic character in both print and commercial advertising.
Advertising?
The 1970s was full of great movies, but some...
Bro, you advertising cigarettes?
...would say that this decade is where horror movies became mainstream. The success of such movies as The Exorcist, Halloween, and the Amityville Horror made going to the movies a new experience, where you...
Oh, guys, really quickly, someone asked me, where on Long Island am I from? Here. Here. Like, this is where I spent a good amount of my time, between here and a lot further east on the island also, guys. But this is basically where I spent a good amount of my time. So if I was to say if you were to ask me where am I from, Amityville.
You would leave the theater rattled.
A lot of my time.
The news of the 1970s was consumed by three main topics. The Vietnam War continued, and more Americans were being reported dead each night. During this same time, the Watergate scandal was also making headlines and would lead to Richard Nixon resigning. The oil crisis was also front and center, with long lines of cars and rationing of gas becoming a regular thing. If you grew up in the 70s, the color Harvest Gold is probably very familiar to you. Kitchen appliances were very popular in this color, and usually the bathrooms would be colorful as well, with avocado green porcelain fixtures.
Yeah, guys, that's not very pretty. I mean, I get it, earth tones, right? Mushrooms and things like that. I've learned, at least from the last part 1, everything was mushrooms and earthy and things like that. So, of course, you'd have, solid, like neutral, earthy colors.
Music during the 1970s was all over the place, from Motown to rock to disco. Motown was still relevant because they had the Jackson 5. Rock and roll bands like the makeup and costume wearing Kiss and the Southern rockers Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Bro, these outfits are crazy. All right, they're absolutely insane.
Gave teens an alternative to the late surge of disco music. There were also many teens wearing t-shirts that showed off their distaste for disco music throughout the late 1970s. To showcase music on television, the popular shows Soul Train and the Midnight Special gave fans the opportunity to watch performances of their favorite singers and bands.
Okay, I definitely remember this, but definitely not from the 70s. I remember from like the 90s, then it basically went away.
For the Midnight Special, you would have to stay up late because it aired on Friday nights, following The Tonight Show.
The Midnight Special.
Primetime television during the 1970s was an eclectic mix, much like music of the day. The Brady Bunch and The Partridge Family were wholesome family-centered comedies, while Starsky and Hutch added some action to the mix.
Yeah, I've definitely heard references to the Brady Bunch. I've never seen it, and I think he said The Partridge Family. Again, references to these two shows, but never encountered it.
All in the Family was a new kind of comedy show that pushed limits when it came to political correctness, and fans loved it. Other shows that made for regular viewing were The Waltons, Sanford and Son, and the Dynamite Good Times. Evel Knievel seemingly was every boy's idol during this period.
And much later on also, I think he broke like every bone in his body or something crazy like that.
Everyone was trying to recreate jumps and playing with toys that were branded with the Evel Knievel name.
Hopefully safely.
The popular stuntman was exciting to watch, whether he cleared a jump or crash landed.
Right.
It was common in the 1970s to see a large-handled comb hanging out of the back pocket of a pair of jeans.
Style, maybe?
The fashion statement let everyone know you prioritized hair care. For older men, leisure suits were a great way to make a statement. They were classic, but also casual. To complete the look, a pair of platform shoes were perfect. Earth shoes were also popular footwear. If you could get used to the negative heel technology that made you feel like you were walking in sand.
Guys, I often say bring back the men in suits. Guys, I'm gonna say right now, not those suits, guys. I have no idea. What were you thinking, sir? Just wear a regular suit. Please.
But also casual. To complete the look, a pair of platform shoes were perfect. Earth shoes were also popular footwear. If you could get used to the negative heel technology that made you feel like you were walking in sand.
Earth shoes.
The year 1976 was an important anniversary in the history of the United States. Our bicentennial was celebrated with parades and ceremonies that led up to the 4th of July celebration that was fitting for 200 years of independence. Patriotism was at an all-time high, with everyone getting in on wearing their red, white, and blue.
Guys, America.
If you were a kid during the early 1970s, there is no doubt you collected wacky packages. These
Wacky
novelty
packages.
trading cards produced by Topps featured parodies of consumer products that made kids crack up.
Guys, what is up with all the tobacco references for kids, guys? I mean, different times. You guys are definitely built differently. I'm telling you.
Waterbeds were also a trendy way to sleep during the 70s. These wavy beds peaked in the 1970s, and they were all the rage. It seemed like everyone wanted one.
What happened if a waterbed popped? Like, wouldn't that just be too, like, I would think that was incredibly too soft to sleep on. Like, did you wake up the next day just in complete back pain?
In 1977, the
Imagine
death
the
of Elvis
damage.
Presley shocked the world. There are a few events that people remember where they were when it happened, but this announcement was one of them. The funeral that followed was attended by 75,000 fans, lining the streets as the procession made its way by. It was also televised 2 days later. During the 1970s, there were some things that every kid had or wanted. Skateboards became the newest way to cruise down the street and show off with your friends. While hanging out in your bedroom, you might have turned on a lava lamp to set
Bro, is this Stretch Armstrong? I think I've had one of these, guys, growing up.
the mood, and then grab
It
your
is.
favorite toy, a Stretch Armstrong, to see how far you could pull his arms before
that
they
was
returned to
fun.
normal.
That was so fun, guys.
You may have also relaxed on your bed to read the newest issue of Mad Magazine. Like wacky packages, Mad Magazine made fun of everything, and it was great for a laugh. If you were in the mood for something more serious, you may have picked up a Dynamite magazine to see what your favorite celebrity was up to. Farrah Fawcett was the 1970s in a nutshell.
Okay.
Every girl wanted to look like her with her feathered hair, and every boy fantasized about her. Posters were big in the 70s, and Farrah was pinned on every boy's wall.
Guys, I've never heard her name or seen her face before.
Popular pinups for girls were either Sean Cassidy or Leif Garrett.
Was she like an actress or something?
To finish out the list, the movie Smokey and the Bandit was an action-packed thrill ride that took
I think this is the mother from Mrs. Doubtfire. I have no idea who the guy is.
everyone along for the ride. The film was fun to watch and made everyone not only want a Pontiac Trans Am, but also a CB radio. The movie popularized the use of CB radios, so much so that they began appearing in many teenagers' cars as a way to communicate with friends and also strangers. If you enjoyed this video, check out the description for links that help support the channel.
Hey guys, so I've never heard of a good amount of these here. I think part 2 may be as cryptic as part 1, but some of these are just blatant tie-overs. They've kind of held the test of time, let's say, to the 80s and then to the 90s. Because if I have encountered them, then that should tell you a lot about how big it was. I'll tell you, at least, right? Because I, for some reason, am under. I get it, guys. I've been under a rock my entire life. All right, a very sheltered child growing up. I'm telling you. All right, like the first time I saw a rated R movie, I think I was probably 19. All right, I just want you to know how serious it is, how serious it was for me growing up. All right, it was just learn this. That was my life, guys. I like it though. I would never return it. Let's say, right? But all right, listen. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.